Hello, Jen here. This is part one of a Christmas card series that myself and Daisy Scraps are doing, where we are going to use Kristina Werner's Christmas card series as our inspiration, and we're going to create some of the cards that she is working on this season. So for those of you who don't know, Kristina Werner is a YouTube card maker, and every year for the last 9 years she's done a Christmas card series, and I love watching her. She always makes the most spectacular cards. She makes them look so easy to do, and they always turn out fabulous. And Daisy and myself have both been watching for a really long time, and we thought it might be fun to try and make these cards for ourselves. So for the next 4 Fridays, we are going to pick one card a week and try to make it. So it should be interesting. So if you're here from Daisy's channel, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you would like to check out Daisy's video, I'll leave all the links down below for you. So the inspiration for this week's card is from Kristina's very first card that she's made in this series. And basically it was these fun snowmen on this really long skinny card with a night sky in behind. So I don't have the same stamp that she did. Hers was quite a few repeating snowmen, kind of all in a big group, but this is the closest that I sort of have to a stamp that would work. So I went ahead and stamped it, and then you could see I drew in a couple extra little snowmen there, because I realized that that stamp actually had a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandpa, and one little baby snowman. And of course I have 3 little baby snowmen, so I added in 2 others. And now I am just going to paint my night sky. So this is 140-pound water paper, or watercolor paper, so it can take a lot of water. And in Kristina's card, she makes this beautiful sort of ombre, dark blue, gorgeous night sky. So I am trying to figure this out and get it to work for me. And I go over it quite a few times. Neither Daisy or myself are card makers, so this has kind of just been a fun, interesting experiment for us to see if we can get some of these cards kind of looking like Kristina's, and I don't know how well I succeed, but maybe by the end of our series I will be a little bit better and have some really cool Christmas cards to hand out this year, so we'll see how it goes. So I'm using some of my Christmas colors like red and green and yellow, and I'm just going to do a few little details in the snowmen. The stamp has some Christmas lights around one of the snowmen, and they have toques and scarves and that kind of stuff on, and of course carrot noses, so I needed some orange for that. And I'm sorry I didn't zoom in for this, because again, not being a card maker, it didn't dawn on me that you can't really see the smaller details. So I will try to remember that for next week for sure. And I made a big mess trying to mix up some black. I know how to do it, and I've never really had issues before. You have to mix complementary colors, and that'll give you sort of that gray-black. But for some reason, I just wasn't choosing the right colors, I guess, and so I didn't get a gray that I really wanted. But in Kristina's card, she uses gray sort of to put shadows and stuff on her snowman and in the snow. And I think this is where Copics would probably come in really handy, and I think that's what Kristina uses. But I don't have any, so I had to use watercolors. And in the end, it works out. They're shadowy. You'll see in the final pictures how well I did with that. So now I need some snowflakes, and I tried my fan brush. Lindsay from the Frugal Crafter, she has mentioned a few times that a fan brush is a good way to get really nice fine splatters, but they were too fine, so you almost couldn't see them. So So I switched to a different brush, and this one was giving me actual paint splatters, like long lines of paint instead of really nice just single dots. So I don't think I did too well in my falling snow, but eventually I kind of play around enough where I think I get it to a look that I'm okay with. And that was just some watered down gesso that I used, which of course, as gesso dries, it sort of becomes a little bit more transparent. It doesn't stay super opaque white. So I think I'm going to have to get some gouache or even some, I have some white acrylic paint, and that's what I'll pull out next time if I have to do this. I've pulled out some Heidi Swap Color Shine in tinsel, and I just wanted to have some stars. I thought it would look pretty if there was a little bit of shimmer in the background. So that is what I've done there, and it kind of dries to a silvery shimmer. It's a little bit darker than silver, maybe like a graphite color, but it adds some texture and a little bit of shimmer to the card. And here I have a few sequins that I'm going to pop in the sky. So some of them, they're actually flowers, but they're white, sort of a white iridescent, and they look like snowflakes. And then from that other little packet, I pulled out some silver and white ones. And now to trim my card down. So, Kristina's stamp sort of lent itself to being able to cut off parts of the snowmen because they are just all in this big jumble. But I thought that my stamp wouldn't look good if I sort of sliced the snowmen. So instead of having a really tall, skinny card, I'm going to balance mine a little bit better by having it be a little bit wider, but I've cut it shorter. I just felt that it looked better that way. So there, that's about the size that I want. It's about 3 3/4 by 6 1/4 tall inches. And now to build my card base, I just pulled out some old cardstock. I have a whole bunch of cardstocks that I just want to try and use up. And I'm just figuring out here how I want it to open. I was sort of hoping to have it open from top to bottom, but of course my cardstock is not long enough to do that, so I'm going to do just a side folding card. So I'm going to measure this card front because of course it's not a standard size, and then I'll cut down this cardstock, and you won't see that minty green color because this card base actually is going to cover the entire front of the card. There won't be any kind of border around the edge or anything like that. So I just cut it down and I scored it, and it fits. I did my math properly. I didn't fold properly though, so I just had to fix that a little bit. And then I'm going to use lots and lots of my ATG glue to make sure that that card front sticks down really well, because the watercolor cardstock is so thick. I just want to make sure it doesn't pop up anywhere. And there we go. I made a card. I usually make my Christmas cards every year, but they don't include all of this elaborate detail and things. So it was actually a lot of fun to kind of play around with my watercolors and get a little bit more artsy than I normally do. So in Kristina's card, she has this beautiful big sentiment up at the top, and she heat embosses it and it looks beautiful. But I felt because the scale of my snowman was so small compared to hers that this big sentiment up at the top just wasn't going to work. So I pull out the only Christmas stamps I have. Apparently I'm the only scrapbooker in the world who doesn't hoard Christmas stamps. But I pull out the ones that I have, and I found this cute little one that says Merry Christmas. But it's too small to heat emboss. It's just gonna get lost. It's not a really clear stamp. It's sort of meant to look like it's been typed. So what I'm gonna do is use this gold gel pen, and I just trace over the letters with the gel pen. And so now they have black underneath and then they have some gold on them. It doesn't really give the texture of heat embossing, but it gives a little bit of extra gold and shimmer. And I'm just adding a few gold details to the snowman and around the edge of the card. And I do the same thing here with a silver gel pen because it's Christmas, silver and gold, why not? And a few little details, and I just like the way that it adds another level of interest. And I'll finish up with the white and silver sequins, so they just kind of look like snow falling down. And the last thing I want to do is put a sentiment inside the card, so I'm just going to pick one of the ones that I didn't use for the outside. And voila, we are done. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me. I had a lot of fun making this, but it took me a while to get it down. So hopefully near the end of this series, I will be more comfortable in this whole card making process and have a ton of beautiful Christmas cards to send out. Check out Daisie's video so you can see how she did, and we'll see you next week for another card. Until then, happy scrapping, everyone. Bye.